everyone. I'm Erin Thompson of Everyday Expressions, and today I'm thrilled to kick off a crafty collaboration video hop with Pear Blossom Press and Picket Fence Studios. Hop along with us and see some awesome light-up cards. So I've begun this card by stamping the new Home for the Bees large focal point stamp. And I have to tell you, I think this stamp is just adorable. It's whimsical and it just looks like it truly is a little home, a sweet home for bees and fairies. So I've placed that in my MISTI, and then I've got a piece of Hammer Mill 100-pound cardstock in there, and I stamped it using the Picket Fence Studios hybrid black ink, and I stamp it twice just for clarity. And then I always heat set my black stamped images before I begin Copic coloring. It just sets the ink and you don't get any smear or any kind of cross-contamination with the alcohol ink markers and your stamped image. So I begin coloring the foliage on this stamped image, and I begin actually with a kind of yellow or a light yellow green color. I always like to add some yellow or another color into the green on foliage. I just think it brightens it up. And if you look at leaves and things in nature, there's always a variation of colors, and lots of times the highlight can look yellow, or there is variegation in yellow in leaves. So I always brighten it up with a lighter color like that. Now, one thing on this image I have to tell you, this is a fairly detailed, smaller image, and I use a lot of colors, and I know that I do. I just like a lot of high contrast between lighter, brighter colors and darker colors for the shaded areas. So by no means do I think that this is for everyone. If you only want to use one or two, maybe a third color, I think this image would be perfect colored like that. So please do not think that you should always use all of the colors that I use. I know that some of the lids are off screen because I've zoomed it in so that you can see a little bit more of my coloring. I will add all of the Copic colors in the comments below the video so you can find exactly the colors I've used. Like I said, there will be a lot of greens. I tried to get a variation in the greens. I used more of a soft sagey kind of green on some of them, and then a brighter kind of yellow green color on other ones. So I just wanted it to really look more like the variation you would see in all the different foliage in nature. So by no means, like I said, do you need to use as many as I do. So while you can just watch me coloring here, let me give you a little bit more information about everything going on with this collaboration video hop. Like I said, we are using fantastic products from Pear Blossom Press and Picket Fence Studios. So hop along with all of the amazing designers and see some awesome light up cards. Plus, each company will be giving away $25 in prizes. All you have to do to be entered to win is leave a comment at each stop along our hop lineup before March 29th at 11:59, and then winners will be announced on the Pear Blossom Press and Picket Fence Studio blogs on March 31st. So now I'm going to go ahead and just play a little bit of music because the coloring takes a little while, and then I'll pop back on when that's all finished or if I've got something else to share with you. One note you'll see when I get to the purples is that I switch from my Copics to my Olo markers. I do like both brands. I tend to use all of my Copics most of the time, but I like that Olo has some new purples and some colors that maybe fill in gaps that Copics do not have. So that's where you'll see in just a moment the change in markers, and that's all that is. So here we go. I'll just play some music and you can just watch along. Now that I've got all of the coloring finished, I'm going to create a mask with just a die cut circle, and I use some repositionable tape on the back to adhere it to my cardstock. And I'm using my paper inking palette from Picket Fence Studios to hold my card and the ink pad so that I can ink blend. The nice thing is that with water-based dye inks, and I'm using Catherine Pooler inks here, you can color right over some of your image, and it normally will not change the color a bit because most of these colors are cool. I can use a blue right over top of some of it, and it blends right in, and it does not affect the color much. I do try to keep most of the ink blending away from the Copic coloring, but blend some over the foliage and around the edges of the card. I begin with a light blue. I move to a medium color blue. I think it was Oh Boy, Fiesta Blue, and then I finish with Juniper Mist, adding in some of the darker because I want to create a moonlit night sky scene for this. I can imagine late at night, the little fairies, the bees are asleep and the fairies are buzzing around, and it's like one crew works during the day and another works at night. So sometimes I imagine these little stories. Kind of weird, I know, but I just love to create little scenes in my cards. So I just do some ink blending, and the mask keeps that moon nice and bright. You want to make sure that you leave some of the lighter color, and that really creates the dramatic effect of the moonlit sky. Dry it with a heat gun so that I don't get inky fingerprints everywhere. I remove the mask, and then I go in to just make it look a little bit more realistic using that tiny blending brush. I am using Oh Boy. I dot some of the color off on a scrap piece of paper, and then I dab and kind of use little circles to create that shadow that we always see on the moon. And here's the important trick on this. Leave a little white edge all the way around, and that will give it more of that spherical look and the true shading that you see on the moon. So just dab and then go in circles, and you just kind of keep it on that left side. And that's how you achieve that really glowing kind of moon look. Pretty simple. Now here I'm moving on to an Easy Light from Pear Blossom Press. These are so truly easy. You get 2 in a pack and you snap them apart, and it comes with batteries and then the easy little mechanism there. So snap those apart, gently kind of move the wires apart because you only need one. You'll see a positive sign and then a positive sign on your battery. Slip that right in there, and ta-da, there you have the lights. So cute. So I've got that all ready to go. And then I realized I forgot my little fairies for my scene. So I've added the cardstock back into the Misty, stamped that again with the Intense Hybrid ink, one on each side. And then I'm going to just grab a couple of light Copic colors. I don't want my fairies to overwhelm the scene. And they're just kind of soft and maybe kind of in the shadows a little bit. So the coloring does not look very intense, and I realize that, but I kind of like that. They're not really the focal point. But you're going to see in just a moment, I'm going to highlight those and give them just a little bit of a glittery effect, and it turns out really cute. So here we go. I'm using a Stardust Jelly Roll pen, and I just go along some of the edges of my fairies and the houses and the leaves and the flowers, and you won't notice it in one direction, but as you move your card, it really gives that glowing, soft, I guess it would be a subtle glowing effect in the moonlight, and it really is a nice finishing touch. I love this pen. I use it for a lot of night scenes like this. I know it's hard to see those in this picture, but you'll see in a moment when I pick it up and kind of move the card. So then I'm taking a craft pick, and because we have 3 lights on our easy lights, and I poke 3 of the windows out on the bee homes. And just kind of wiggle your craft pick around to create a big enough opening for that window. You could even go from behind and wiggle it a little bit more. Just big enough for the lights to kind of squeeze in there. So just maneuver your light. You can see there's a little tiny front and a back, and I put the front so that it would be shining out the window. And I'm just using a piece of score tape here because it's what I have. You could use Scotch tape, any kind of clear tape that you've got. So I just tape each of these down, and I even leave the backing on the back of the tape. I love these lights. I think they're so easy to use. There's no circuitry. There's no, taping down anything other than this little piece, and just super simple. Anyone you give a light up card, they just smile from ear to ear, and it's such a special effect. So I love Pear Blossom Press lights. They have all different kinds. They have one light, they have twinkle lights, these easy lights. They even have halo lights that with lights that go in a circle. So pretty much anything you can imagine, they have a light for, and I just think they're so fun. So once you get these all kind of taped down, just kind of move your circuitry, and then figure out where you're going to put your button. So your recipient will need to push the button somewhere. So figure out where that's going. And then this is where I'm using more score tape. I add it right there where that light is going, where the kind of press mechanism will go. Remove the backing. And then I'm going to turn the button so that it's facing the front of the card. I started to put it down there, see, and then I flipped it around. There we go. You could do it the other way and tape this to your card back, but I just found it was easier to know exactly where I wanted to put it right there. And there's the lights. So you always have to test it out, see how cute it is, and smile. Then I tape down the wires so that they stay in place. Now I'm taking my dimensional foam tape. I cut a strip, and you always want to double it when you are using your Pear Blossom Press lights, because the mechanism is about the thickness of a double thickness of foam tape. So double it up. Then I add it to the entire back of my card. I go right over the wires there. And then you'll see in a moment, I cut a strip kind of in half to add to the side. Normally I try to give a little bit more space. I wasn't thinking when I put the little press button there, but there's enough room. I add a little sliver of foam tape. So once I have this on here and I know exactly where the button is, I flip it over, I stamp my sentiment. I probably should have done that earlier, but it worked out okay. No mishaps there. And I used a new stamp set from Pear Blossom Press, and it has all the little terms: push, pull, remove, press, scratch off, even a little handmade by you. And I use the little press here to designate where your recipient will press the button to turn on the lights. And then I pull off the backing, I add it to a card base, and the final touch is to use a gel pen to add some stars. So what do you think? I just love how this card turned out. Thanks so much for hopping along today. Don't forget to hop along to see the other adorable light up cards along the way. Don't forget to like and subscribe to be notified for new videos. And I'll see you the next time. Thanks so much for joining me. Bye, everybody.